Welcome back to our channel. If you've been following along, you would have seen that we built an extension here in Milwaukee. And in this video, we're going to show you the best bits, the obstacles we overcame and the final result. Let's get into the video. So the customer came to us with their plans to build a single storey extension round the back of this property. And that's when we came across our first obstacle, the access. They've got a large garage on the side of their property and the alleyway up the side isn't very big. You'd only get yourself and nothing else. We had to do a large dig out, removing the patio and decking, so we had to make sure that we could get our diggers through there. So obviously we can't go under the garage, we can't go over the garage, so we had to go through it. So I'm going to show you how we overcame that obstacle. So we obviously had to go through the garage. Now, much as the garage was a hindrance for access, this place actually became quite attached to it. We used this for hiding out the rain, we used it as a cutting area, we used it to store all of our materials, and actually it was really good. Now obviously the door here wasn't big enough to get the diggers through, so what we had to do was take out the window, we knocked down the wall, that was able to get us through with our diggers and all the machinery. Now obviously we gave the customer the option at the end of the job to put a window back in, but they had opted for bricking it back up, so you can see we blocked it up this side, and we repaired the render on this side. So before we could get started, once we had our access, we had a large job of ripping out the existing decking, patio, stairs, and breaking up all the concrete that was here already. So even though that was a large job to break all that up, it gave us an opportunity to try out our new MX Fuel Milwaukee breaker. So once the ground was all broke up, we had a clean slate to work on. Sean came in with his digger and started digging out the strip foundations. Now the strip foundations is basically the footing, and that's what your house sits on top of. So once that was dug out and the trench was in place, we then had the concrete truck turn up and we had to go backwards and forwards with wheelbarrows, filling up the full strip. Once that was done, the bricklayers came in and started to build their substructure, which is made up of an internal 6-inch block with a 50mm cavity and then a 4-inch external block. Then this brought us up to DPC level. We made sure that we were double checking our drawings, double checking our sizes and double checking our measurements. Once that was done, the guys came back and they infilled the solum, they put their insulation in, their rebar in, their DPM, and then they started to fill up the concrete. But this time, when the concrete truck arrived, we did things a little bit differently. Because it was such a large quantity of concrete, we had to pump it from the street all the way through the back, through these big tubes. So as I was pouring the concrete pad, one of the boys went around with the vibrator, taking out all the air bubbles, and another one went along, making sure it was nice and level and flat, and giving it a good float. So that when we come to build a timber kit, it was going to be a nice flat surface for us to work on, make the life so much easier. So once we gave that a couple of days to set, it was then time for me and Stephen to come in and start building a timber kit. Now even though the guys did a lot of setting out, measuring and marking and making sure everything was square and level, we still double checked as the joiners to make sure that our kit was going to be perfect. Putting the timber kit up is one of my favourite jobs of all time. It's one of the days where you feel like an absolute rock star. Everything starts to come right out the ground, everything comes up really fast, and it's so much fun, and you can catch to see the building coming together. So once the timber kit was built, we then moved on to building the roof. So when we moved on to the roof, that came with many challenges. So the architect originally wanted a large bearer right along the back wall on the front part of the building. So obviously there was a wee jut out here above the existing French doors, and then obviously a bearer above the back window over there. But the heights were differently. This wall came out and it was a wee bit lower. So what me and Stephen had to do was a wee bit of investigation work. We took off all the tiles and we found that there was actually a steel beam above the French doors, which gave us a solution. So at the other side of the property, we were able to get a timber bearer on the wall for our joist to go in, sit on joist hangers as per the drawing. But above the French door here, we had to sit it on top of the steel, on top of the wall plate and tie into the existing roof. That meant that it wasn't going to sit above the hip, and it meant that it was all going to be flat and be the one level. That's something you may come across if you're trying to build new construction onto a 100-year-old house. So for the roof joist, we were using 8x2 timber, which is 195 by 45mm. We put all of our joists in and then we formed the V-Lux. So for forming the V-Lux, we had to have double bearers at either side and then the trimmer joists in between. So once all our joists were in, we cut off all the tails, making sure we had the right appropriate size of overhang, and then we did the gable ladders at either side of the building. This was to take our soffits and fascias, but we'll go on to that in a wee minute. Once that was done and the full structure of the roof was formed, it was time to put a fall on it. Obviously a flat roof isn't exactly flat because we need the water to run off it, or we're going to run into problems later on. So what we had to do was we had to cut furring pieces out of 4x2 timber. For every metre we had a 25mm fall. So cutting your furring pieces, I've obviously found out, is a wee bit controversial. Some people like to do it their own way. I've showed you the way I like to do it, and obviously some timber merchants even cut them for you. Now I'm unfortunate, my timber merchant does not cut them for you. So I'm going to cut it the way I did it, and the way I did it was the way that Robin Clevitt showed me. So you can all go spam the comments saying Robin Clevitt is the GOAT. So the next challenge we came across was obviously insulating the roof and keeping it nice and cosy for the customers. So this is a hybrid roof, and that's what was specified on the drawings. When we do our extensions, we follow our drawings to a T because we have a building inspector that comes out and double checks all of our work. The makeup of this roof was the joists themselves, then the furring pieces, and in between that we had a layer of 60mm foam back insulation, basically Kingspan, up tight to the first layer of OSB. We then had 18mm OSB, we then had our vapour barrier, then another layer of 100mm OSB, and then the final layer of 18mm OSB on top of that. So it's quite a lot, it's basically like a big sandwich. And then on top of that, the final finish was a torch down felt roof. Now the reason why it wasn't just your standard warm deck roof was because of the height. We obviously didn't want the height of the roof to be too high and peer over and be able to see from the front of the property, or clash in with the hip here. So just remember, this wasn't my decision. We take nothing to do with the design of the building. It's all down to the people that are much smarter than me, the architects, the engineers, and the local council. So to keep that in mind if you're doing your own extension. The rules and regulations are different between Scotland and England, and even between some councils. And the icing on the cake for this roof was the 1200 by 1200 deadlight, which we've got, which by the way was an absolute ton weight, and I was so glad that we brought Davey out that day to help us lift it up. So obviously this wee extension at the back of this property is in a wee crevice, which is quite dark. So having that skylight, which you'll see a wee bit later on in the video, lets lovely natural light through into their dining area. So that was the light coming from above. Obviously we needed some light and ventilation coming from the sides. So each room, we've obviously got the dining area, the utility and the bedroom, got their own individual set of windows. So they were 1800 by 1200, and then the smaller one was 600 by 1200. Once the windows were in, the bricklayers could then come back and do their superstructure, and the plasterers could come and do the rough cast. We finished it with this white pebble dash, low maintenance, customer doesn't need to paint it, it's going to stay that colour forever, really easy for them to maintain. And once that was set, the roofers came back and did their soffits, fascias and gutters. And we also got the Scottish Bifold company to come in and fit this lovely anthracite grey bifold. Now the cool thing about this, Scottish Bifold company actually upgraded this door so that we could have access from the outside and the inside, because usually a bifold door has 3 bits of glazing with 1 still door, but in this case it was only 2, so to be able to get opening it from the outside was an extra bonus. Now let's get to the good bit, we get to go inside. So once we were winding watertight, we could start putting the insulation in. The exterior walls got 140mm insulation, then they got a vapour barrier, then 25mm Kingspan insulation, and then a 50mm service batten for allowing us to run our cables and pipes through the walls. Before we could move on to sheeting it, we then carried out the slat throughs. Now this was the first time that I had ever done a slat through on my own, because previously we'd usually get the builders to do it, but there was no lintels, there was no prop needed. All I had to do was cut a straight line through the wall, and then we obviously had to break it up and tidy it all away. So once that was complete, we double checked our levels and we were able to get the floor down. So the floor was made up of 50mm battens with 18mm tongue and groove flooring on top of that. Now before we put it down, the plumbers came in and put all their pipes in for the new radiators. When we did the new radiators, they decided that the plumbers would be best to bring them up through the walls opposed to bringing them up through the floor. Now that just makes a whole lot better finish for the customer, which you'll see in the end product. Now that we're winding watertight, we had our slat throughs done, we had our tongue and groove flooring done, it was time to start sheeting the place and bring it into a home. And for this, we brought in Big Callum. We had so much fun on site with Callum that day, and he was so helpful at getting all the sheeting done, because I'll be honest with you, sheeting isn't my most favourite job, but when you're doing it with your pals, it's literally so much fun. Once all the sheeting was done, it was then time to start putting up the internal walls and dividing up the space into the individual rooms that we were going to have. So obviously we're going to have a large dining area, a utility area and a back bedroom. So obviously we're a turnkey service and we offer all trades, so that included the plumber, the electrician and the plasterer. Now before we put all the sheets on the walls, the electrician did come in and do their first fix, and as we were building the internal walls, they were also here and getting their light switches in place, the sockets in place and various different things. Throughout this we had to have all the smoke alarms interlinked, we had new spotlights in each room, and we also upgraded the board for the customer because theirs was a wee bit outdated, so we wanted to bring that up to standard. So once the plasters were done, it was time for us to come back and do the finishings, which included LVT click down flooring, a nice new utility area, buffered skirtings and facings, oak veneer doors and a dado rail in the back bedroom. So the finishing part of the job is where everything starts to come together and all your hard work over the past couple of weeks really comes to fruition. Have you got time for a quick tour? Come on in. So you'll see the bifold, is really letting in a lot of light, as well as the skylight here, and this just looks so cool. So this is the existing kitchen. Obviously none of that got damaged in the process of the build, and the family have now got their dining area space, which they always wanted, which I think is just so cool. And the place looks so nice and bright. Obviously the painters have done an amazing job of finishing off this project. As well as that, you've also got the light coming in here. So this room is lovely and bright. Through here, you've got the utility area, and I think the client's colour choices are just so nice. You've got some lovely wallpaper up, again, just finishes it off so well. The oak doors, the oak shaker cabinet doors, which I think are so nice, and then with the white worktops. They're saving a good bit of space. We've went for a bridging unit up top, a tumble dryer and washing machine stack, which I think is just so cool. And how cute is this wee baby radiator? So the skirtings and facings that we went to finish for, we had 120mm skirting on the floor and then 90mm facings. Now this is the buffered skirting and facings from Howden's, and I think this really looks nice and modern. It's just square profile with a nice wee groove around it. This is so good for wiping down your skirting board. They don't collect dust as they would if you had lots of different mouldings like Taurus or OG. So we really like these, and that's what we kind of use in all of our projects. But if you want to pick a different one, that's okay too. And how cool is this LVT click flooring? So I'm going to take you into the back room. So a couple of months ago, this used to be a window that looked into the back garden, coming through. It's now such a nice additional bedroom and space that the client is able to use. They're going to actually use this space as an office and an additional bedroom, which I think is really cool because it also fitted it off. I fitted them at a nice day rail. Again, just giving that wee bit extra nice feature, and they've decorated it so well. What do you guys think? So that brings a Milwaukee extension project to an end. I hope you've enjoyed following it along. We're happy, we enjoyed the project, the customers are happy, which is the most important thing. And if you are in the Glasgow area and you are thinking about an extension or a renovation, please don't hesitate to get in touch. YouTube thinks you should watch this video. This is our next big project. We're renovating our own house. Bye.